Okay, well, we are very excited. This is, like we were saying, this is the first time we've done women's session in a few years, so we're really excited to have this. Lacey is truly wonderful. She helps out in the kitchen, but she also was a small group leader a few years ago and then had her precious little boy. She worked out at the Pines Catholic Camp. We barely missed each other. But I worked with her husband for quite some time. So I want you guys to welcome up Lacey to give our women's talk tonight.
Hi, everyone. How are y'all? Good. A little somber, it sounds like. All right, well, I'm so happy to be here with y'all. I hope that this is not as scary for y'all as it is for me. But we're going to actually get going. Let me use my fancy iPad. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. All right, before I even get started, we're going to do a little bit of an icebreaker. So what I want you to do is you can just turn to the girl nearest to you. You can be in a group of 2 or a group of 3. Okay, so take a second, find your partner or your partners. No more than 3, though. Okay, and I want y'all to answer these questions together. The first one is, are you feminine? Why or why not? And then who's a woman in your life or on social media who you think is a perfect example of femininity, and why? Okay, you have a few minutes, go. All right, wrap up your thought. Okay. I know that wasn't a ton of time, but that's okay because we're going to get into it. So, are you feminine? No. Why not? It's a hard word. Yeah. Okay. So we just don't feel it, right? Okay. What else? Anybody feminine, not? Why not? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Gentleness, humility. Okay. Feels like she's got some gentleness and humility, but maybe doesn't always do the most feminine things. One more. Anybody? Okay. You play video games. Okay. So you don't feel feminine because you play video games. All right. The way you dress. All right. We're going to get into that. What about somebody in your life or in social media who is like the perfect, like, feminine person? Yeah. Who? Evie Magazine? I don't know who that is. Does it do a women's magazine? Okay. Duh, I'm with it. Yeah. Okay, and what about that is like super feminine? Okay. Natural femininity. So like just like who you are and like Okay, cool. Is there anybody else, anybody who like inspires you or like you think is like the perfect woman? Yeah. Dolly Parton. What about Dolly? We love Dolly. She's nice. She dresses up. She's a philanthropist. Yeah. The Queen. Elizabeth? Or, oh, yeah. Jenna Ortega. Okay. All right. So we've got some people that were like, these people are super feminine, and here's why I think that. Okay. As we're going through this, I want you to think about who told you that that's what femininity is, right? We Googled it, and you might feel a certain way, or the people around you you're not like them maybe, and so maybe you're not feminine. But just think about who told you what femininity is, what it means to be feminine and a woman. All right, we're gonna take it back a step because I think it's really important to know like who I am and that like I'm a person just like y'all. My name is Lacey Berger. I am from the Houston area. That's where I grew up. A fun fact about me is I am actually not a cradle Catholic, so I converted to Catholicism about when I was y'all's age. And I got dragged to Catholic Mass after a Saturday night sleepover, and I fell in love. I kept going. My family was very supportive of me, and I went through confirmation, First Communion, kind of did like an all-in-one thing. So that was one of the best decisions I ever made. I went to school at Texas A&M, got a degree there. Then I went and got another degree at Baylor. While I was at A&M, I met a boy. He was super cute, and he was just the best. Dated him while I was at Baylor, and then afterwards we got married. We have a little son. His name is Beckett. He's 2 years old. He's got blonde curly hair that we don't know where it came from, but you probably see him running around on Wednesday nights. I do the kitchen. My husband does small groups, and our son kind of just roams around. He's homesick tonight, so say a little prayer for him. But we've lived in the Grapevine area for about 3.5 years, and we really love it here. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me. But when Kayla asked me to do this talk, I immediately was like, did she call the right Lacey? Like, she sure this is who she wants to talk to the girls? Like, because I don't feel like I am super feminine, okay? When I was y'all's age, when I was in high school, I was loud. I was always like bigger than my other friends, and I never had a boyfriend. Like, I just didn't feel like I was a great girl, right? I was like, I'm not it. Maybe one day I'll be better, and that just wasn't it. And we get told these messages over and over again of what it means to be a woman, right? Like when I was in high school, it was like Victoria's Secret, like Pink came out, and you would go into the store at the mall with your friends, and it was like you just keep seeing all these ideas of what this perfect woman is. And, then now y'all are probably on social media saying, no, this is what a perfect woman is, or this is what you should do. And I didn't feel like I fit into anything, right? Like I'm this loud woman, but I'm not like super sexy, but I'm not like quiet and meek and like very, to myself. So like, who am I, right? I didn't feel like I fit into either one of those areas. I just went to a Catholic conference a few weeks ago with one of my best friends, and I called her after and I was like, man, there's some holy women out there, and I just don't feel like it made me feel self-conscious. And I was like, then I'm asked to do this talk, and I just feel like I'm not the right person. She was like, I think because you're feeling that, you probably are the right person, and I think God's trying to tell you something. And I was like, all right, deal, done. So I tell you that because I want to be honest with y'all that I'm gonna tell you a lot of really great things today, but I don't always feel them in myself as well. I struggle with these things daily. As a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, as a friend, all of these things I'm struggling with constantly. And so hopefully y'all can see my humbleness a little bit and meet me where we all are in just trying to be the best we can be. So let's talk about femininity. We talked about the conflicting ideas. What is it? We don't fit maybe in these one areas. We feel like, oh, I play video games, or oh, I, wear a lot of dresses, so I'm pretty feminine. Like, it seems so black and white and what really is feminine but not. And it's just crazy. So I went to one of the best popes, in my opinion, P2, and he actually wrote a letter to women. So popes, infallible, they speak truth, and so they do a lot of writing, and it's actually really good. If you haven't read JP2's letter to women, I actually recommend it. It's a pretty quick read, and it's really amazing. So essentially, he writes this letter to women. This was back in 1995, and at this time, a big topic of conversation was, are women equal, right? Seems kind of crazy now, but it was going through like equal pay issues and all of those kinds of things. And he was wanting to address women from the stance of the church to let everybody know, hey, this is where we stand on these things. And it's a really beautiful letter. He starts off by thanking women. Like, first thing he says is like, thank you, everyone, for being a woman. Because truly, the world would not function without us. Like, that's his first and foremost. So, like, he says that, he thanks married women, single women. He says that, he thanks married women, single women, consecrated women, daughters, sisters, wives, friends, every single woman he thanks, because we all play such a vital role in essentially humanity, right? So he wants you to know that the world needs women, okay? Then he kind of gives a little backstory, right? He goes into Genesis and he talks about where did woman come from, how did this all start, and what are we called to do? So this first Bible verse here is God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. So this is what sins in the part, right? Plants and everything. And then at the very end, birds and the plants and everything. And then at the very end, he creates man and woman, right? He creates male and female. He creates them in his own image and likeness. That's what makes us different, right? That's what makes us set apart and distinct, is that we are made in the image and likeness of God, okay? So then he goes on to say that it's not good for man to be alone and that he needs to be made a helper fit for him. Now, helper is kind of a word where I'm like, I do my own thing. I don't need to be somebody's helper, right? Like, I make my own money, I do my own thing, right? Like, I'm not following Adam around in the garden being like, oh, here you go, do whatever you need to do, I'm just here to help. So that kind of hits hard, right? Like being a helper. But JP2 kind of outlines that that's not really what that means, this idea of like a little helper, like a little buddy to help you out. That's not what woman is. We were created out of this idea of help, but this help is complementary. It is not a one-sided help. It is mutual, okay? We were created because man cannot do this alone, all right? And he also says, which I think this is super cool, that help is acting, right? Yes, we physically help, but it's also being, okay? So that help that God talks about is not only acting, but being. Our very being is helping the world. Our very being helps man. Like, we're a big deal, okay? And JP2 is just like, hey, remember that, all right? Women are not second class. We are not a step down. We are, like, vital, okay, in a complementary relationship. Then God says, go fill the earth and subdue it, okay? So he tells man and woman to go out and then obviously and subdue the earth, create. We know how biology works, hopefully. And then he says, and subdue it, right? That means take my earth and make use of the resources. It's a big responsibility, right? And that is not something that he says to Adam and then is like, yeah, and then ask Eve if you need help. No, it is given to both man and woman an equal responsibility to go fill the earth and make use of its resources. So JP2 is saying this because he wants us, again, to be reaffirmed in the fact that we are not second-class citizens, right? We are a complementary help to the man in a complementary relationship. And that is all to say that women have an innate dignity, all right? I hope that's not something that's super groundbreaking, and if it is, I hope you really, let that settle in, that we have an innate dignity purely by being a woman. You don't even have to do anything. It's there. Nothing can take it away. You've got it, all right? You were created with that dignity. He says that immense feminine tradition, humanity owes a debt to that can never be repaid. Yet how many women have been continued to be valued more for their than for their skill, their professionalism, their intellectual abilities, their deepest sensitivity, in a word, the very dignity of their being. That's a direct quote from the Pope. We have a dignity that is more than just what we look like, what we can offer to other people. We've got a dignity. I know that sometimes these women's talks can feel like a lot of don't wear too short of shorts, and don't forget to wear a cami under your shirt. And that's important, right? Modesty is an important thing, but I want you to know that dignity is innate. It is not something that you lose if you, dress immodestly or cuss a lot or whatever it is. You don't lose that. It is absolutely a part of you. And it's important. This is what we call the feminine genius. Okay? You have the feminine genius within you. And JP2 says in another letter that women imbued, which is essentially inspired by, women imbued with a spirit of the gospel can do so much to aid humanity in not falling. JP2 calls us and says that God is calling us to help humanity not fall. That's how important we are. And again, in this letter, he's going on to say, that's why we should be a part of, the corporate, area and politics and social economics and all of these things, because we are vital. Us purely just being a woman are absolutely vital. So congratulations. You all have done it. Right? But there is a call to this, right? How do we get there? What's our game plan? What does JP2 want to say to us? And how can we help be this feminine genius to help the world be saved, essentially, right? Help humanity be saved. So there's 4 aspects that are kind of the keys to this that JP2 outlines. I like to think of these more as your strengths and things that women bring that are different than men. So they're kind of like building blocks, and they're going to build on one another. Starts with receptivity, sensitivity, generosity, and then maternity. So let's talk about these. Seem kind of straightforward, but each of them kind of goes a little bit deeper. So we start with receptivity. We are called to be these geniuses of receptivity, biologically, emotionally, and spiritually. Think about it from the very sense when God created us, we were literally created to receive a human life. Now, whether you choose in the future to have children or not, you were still created to receive that. And that goes out into your spirituality as well as emotionally being able to be receptive of things, okay? And some of the things that are really, something that's really hard about being receptive is that in order to receive, you got to let go, right? Let go of that control. So I like to think about this in a relationship with Christ. How many times have you prayed for something and you didn't let go of what you wanted to happen in order to let God into your life and to hear what his call is for you? We're called to be receptive to God's call for us, our vocation, who we are, how we treat others, all of these things. We need to be receptive to God's word. And we can't do that if we're holding on to things. We're also called to be receptive to others, right? I don't know if there's a friend who's made you mad and you don't want anything to do with them. Maybe they're trying to apologize and you're like, no, I'm going to hold on to this grudge. We as women can be receptive, and obviously you can still make the best choice for you, but we're called to be open, okay? Building on that, we go into sensitivity. So, a lot of people see this as a weakness, right? Like, oh, you're so sensitive. Like, oh, she's so sensitive. Like, don't talk to her. She's sensitive. But this is a really big strength of ours. And sensitivity is more about seeing the deepest needs of the heart. Have you ever, just noticed that somebody wasn't, feeling well? Or, you're talking to your friend and they said, oh, no, I'm fine. And you're like, they're not fine. But then maybe, your guy friends, oh, they said they were fine. No, they're not fine. We are sensitive. We can see the needs of people's hearts, and we're able to separate that inner person from what they give outwardly. And this is important, y'all. This is so important. Something that can be a problem with this is kind of this numbness we want to take on. There's too much going on. I'm going to disassociate and just not deal with it. I'm going to push this drama to the side, or I'm going to push this person to the side. How many times do you get on TikTok and you just scroll for hours? And these people you're seeing, you're like, ugh, they're ugly. Oh, I don't like. These are people, right? We're not, we need to call on that sensitivity and recognize that there are real people behind what they put out into the world, that they have needs, that they're hurting, that they're made just like us. It's incredibly important for humanity. And so those are the first two. Then we go into generosity. JP2 talks a lot about generosity in that in order to fully find ourselves, we have to give of ourselves. I mean, we're made in the image and likeness of Christ, and he literally sacrificed everything, right? And so we have to give of ourselves in order to find ourselves. This can be generosity with time, generosity with other people. You can go volunteer, or you can be generous with your parents when you really don't want to be. This is the action, right? So you've built the receptivity, you've got the sensitivity, and then you've got the action now. All right, I've been open to God. I've been open to those around me. I'm trying to see people for who they are. I'm trying to be sensitive, and now I can be generous. For me, this looks a lot like being, helping my family when I'm tired. My son was sick today. I really didn't want to, bring him every single thing of fruit snack he wanted, but I'm his mom, right? And I know that he's not doing it to annoy me. I know that he's doing it because he doesn't feel good, right? And I'm sensitive to that because I'm his mom, right? Which brings me to maternity. This might be something that's kind of hard to think about right now, and that's okay. But we are all called to be mothers. Not necessarily physically, right? I mean, we've got lots of people in the world who don't have children, but we're called to be spiritual or physical mothers. And all that means is that I kind of looked at this quote from Edith Stein. It says, "The woman's soul is fashioned as a shelter which other souls may unfold." Where other souls may unfold. So you build up on all of these things, right? You work on these things, and then at maternity, your soul is a safe place for others. That's what that means, right? Is that you're bringing that maternity, those aspects to others, and giving them a place to grow. You think about when you're young and you fall down, you hurt yourself, and who do you call for? Call for your mom. And your dad too, of course. But you go to your mom. It's a safe place. You know you're okay. And you can be that for other people. And that's what we're called to do. And I know, like I said, I want you to remember, I'm not perfect at these things. I'm sitting up here telling you to do these things and to grow in these areas. Receptivity is one of the hardest things for me to do. Let go of my schedule and control and plan so that God can come in and, no, it's hard. So I'm not saying that this is something that is, okay, check, did all 4 today, woohoo. And that's why JP2 had to write a letter about it, right? That's why he's calling us, that God is calling us to do these things. And if you need a good example, Mary's the best one. She was receptive. She literally received Christ into her body. She received God's call. He asked her to do it. She said yes. It's called her fiat. It's not just a little sports car. It's called her fiat. Her yes. And it's incredibly inspiring. But she was fully receptive to God's will for her. Skipping forward a little bit, her sensitivity, in the Bible it says that she was at Jesus' feet when he was on the cross, and she was so sensitive to his needs as his mother, she could feel in her heart the pain he was feeling. That's how sensitive she was. Her generosity, her act was the first generous act. She gave of herself, sacrificed herself in order to bring Christ into this world for everyone. It wasn't a decision she just made for her or because God asked her. It was for everyone. And then her maternity. She was Jesus' mother, but she's also a mother to all of us, right? She's the queen of angels, the mother of all. She continues that maternity to this day. So she is quite literally the perfect example. That's what femininity is. It's not the way you dress. It's not your hobbies. It's not, if you wear dresses or if you wear cargo pants or whatever, or if you're desired by men, or it doesn't matter. Your femininity is the dignity that you have innately and those building blocks that you're already doing every day and you can grow in so easily. Be receptive to God. Receive him in the Eucharist. Receive him in prayer. Be sensitive to others. Take some time to really look at others and who they are. Be generous with your time, with your emotions. Be generous with people. And then you'll be that safe place. That's what JP2 says will help humanity not fall. That's it. It's not easy, but that's it. So, we talked at the beginning about your feminine genius. If you felt like you were feminine, or who you thought was feminine, who is the perfect embodiment of femininity. But the truth is you are all feminine. No matter, if you play video games or if you feel feminine, you are. Because you're a woman and you're created in the likeness of God. Simply by creation, you have those strengths and those gifts. And then finally, my takeaway I want you to know is I'm also so thankful you're here. Just like JP2. We've got an amazing call. And like I said, I didn't believe a lot of these things. And then I started getting ready for this talk. I felt so compared to other people. It felt like I wasn't enough. And I felt reinvigorated in my vocation as a mother, as a wife, as a friend. And I hope that you heard something today that sits with you. But thank you all for being women, for doing all of these things. And I'll be praying for all of you. Thanks, y'all.